Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Sorry if this was covered in last night's thread, but I passed the fuck out early cause PRT in the morning. But are there any stories/legends that come from Georgia? More specifically the Appalachian Mountains?
Yes. 1. For the love of God, stay on the trails. Do not for any reason, go off the trails. Aside from meth labs, stills, and pot fields manned by antisocial hillbillies, the instant they see a soldier in their area, they will shoot first, they will hit you, and you will die. And your friends will not find your body. But there is something up there. The thing is, well, easiest way to describe it is a baboon crossed with a skunk ape. About 8 feet tall, weighing nearly 600 pounds. You smell it before you see it. Rank, nasty smell. Rotting meat. If you smell it, do not run. Stop. Slowly walk back to your camp. If you see it out of the corner of your eye, do not look at it. For the love of God, do not make eye contact. Running triggers its hunt instinct. Looking it in the eye, it sees that as a challenge. This thing will kill you. It can run down horses and rip a man limb from limb. It is highly aggressive, fast, strong, and can track you by smell better than any dog. They attribute the corpses they find to bears. Problem is, bears don't leave mauled corpses, they bury or eat them. Bears also don't shit on the corpse. And they don't fling body parts into the trees. People only started disappearing a few years back. But if you look, I mean going through archives, of Tennessee, the Carolinas, Virginia, West Virginia, it started up in Maine. It's been making its way south. It's at the end of the line. It's found its new territory. 2. Don't go into the long grass.
I don't know what that thing is, but I've seen it. I'll Greentext, but writing as I go. B 2007. Myself, R.J. L are all backpacking on Blood Mountain. Blood Mountain is known as the start of the Appalachian Trail in Georgia. Fairly popular hiking destination, but was fairly deserted that weekend. Make camp at summit on Saturday night. Things are going good. I'd been there before back in the 90s with my scout troop. Awful smell. Smelled like rancid meat. Like when the freezer went out last month and all the meat spoiled. Smell goes away after an hour or so. We go to bed. Next morning, we pack up. Smell is back, but not as strong. Start hiking back down. Smell gets stronger. L says something's following us, back and to the left off the trail. We all turned to look. That's when we saw it. 7 to 8 feet tall. Massive. Black matted hair. Elongated snout with massive canines and bluish skin on the snout. Ape-like face. It was hunched over like a gorilla or a baboon, with a long tail. It screeched, or howled, a combination really, and charged. Fuck, it was fast. It hit L like a fucking train, bowled him over and skidded around to grab him. We were running at this point. R falls to the ground as something flies past my head and hits him. It's L's arm. Looks like it had been wrenched off his body. The thing must have kept mutilating him. We couldn't hear his screams anymore, but we ran. We had dropped our gear along the way. Get to ranger station, report what happened. Rangers grab rifles, they think it's a bear. We lead them back, there's 2 of them, both armed, we feel somewhat safe. Find arm. Then find body about 100 yards further. Ripped limb from limb, a leg is hanging from a branch. Eyes are gone, gouged out of the skull. It looks like shit has been smeared on the body. Rangers are visibly shaken and sick. They say it was a bear. Ushered back to the station to give full reports. Funeral for L is closed casket. Paper says he was mauled by a bear. Rangers say we must have gotten between a mother and its cubs. We're all smarter than that, we're all experienced campers and hikers. I haven't been back to the mountains since then. Elle's mom believes the official story. Elle's grandfather is from Vermont. He says he knows what really happened. Elle's grandfather said they called it the blood ape. Elle's grandfather tells us that it has our scent to not go back. About 2 years ago, I started looking up more on the blood ape. Don't find anything. Do find records of bear maulings that fit what happened to Elle. From Canada to Tennessee. This thing is out there. And it's not alone. If you hear about a bear attack in the mountains, find the details. If they don't fit a bear's MO, such as the corpse not eaten, defecated on, scattered about, it wasn't no bear. It's the damned blood ape. And I ain't going back in the woods, even armed.
So, Leshy, you want to hear a story, eh? Well, I'll tell you one. I remember when I was just a rookie. It must have been 2009. Anyways, I was on my way from the cordon to the garbage. I was making my way to the base duty had recently set up. At that time, I only had the Gorka from my time in the service, a small haversack, my kalash, and a sawn-off shotgun. Darkness came quicker than normal, so I found an abandoned house to set up camp. I stayed there for a few hours listening to the radio and reading my book by lamplight. It was around 1:23 at night, I believe, when all of a sudden my radio went to static. I thought that was odd, but the zone is a strange place. Once I turned it off, however, I noticed something. It had become deathly quiet. As if you were underwater. No crows, no animals, nothing. This started to unnerve me, but I went back to my book and tried to think nothing of it. Suddenly, I hear movement in the bushes. By now, I'm thinking some bandit is going to ambush me, and how stupid I was for leaving the lamp on. I'm practically shitting my pants, when out from the tree line comes this huge German Shepherd. I almost put my entire magazine into the poor thing. It seemed friendly, so I let it stay by me. It had on it a once lovingly crafted collar, etched into it was the word Sergei. It was made out of a spare piece of leather and copper, but it was beat to hell. The damn thing looked 20 years old. I didn't really care though, the thing provided comfort and was warm. It had its head on my lap, when suddenly it perked its body up to a sound coming from the woods. This unnerved me even more than the first incident, and now I had my sights up in an instant. Suddenly, I see movement. Something about 8 feet tall. It was bipedal, and it was coming towards me. The thing vaulted through the window and tackled me. What I saw haunts me to this day. It was humanoid, but very lanky, you could see its ribcage. It was covered in fur up until its huge hands, it had claws that must have been 1/4 of a meter long. Its face was filled with tumors, and those eyes. It seemed as if they glowed with the intensity of nuclear fire, that I was looking into the very eyes of death itself. It reached up to cut me with those claws, when suddenly Sergei leapt onto the creature. He started chewing at its neck, all the while this thing is screaming in pain. It pushes Sergei off it, and runs all the way back to the tree line. Sergei was following it and barking at it the entire time. Sergei then came back, wagged its tail at me, and I gave him some of my food. I ended up falling asleep next to him. When I woke up, he was gone. Like he vanished into thin air. No hair, no collar, not even shit. Nothing. Sometime later, I had the chance to visit Forrester, one of the original inhabitants of the zone. I had not seen any dog before or since, so I went to ask him a question. I asked when the last time he saw a dog was, and he told me that there used to be a single dog that belonged to one of the plant workers. He told me that it was the biggest dog he had ever seen, a powerful, yet humble and faithful German Shepherd. His owner was one of the first liquidators, and when the dog's master did not return, the dog followed the man into the reactor, and was never seen again. So Leshy, this is what I believe. That creature I saw that night? I believe that was a physical amalgamation of the zone. You know the saying, lost to the zone. I believe that may have more than one meaning, perhaps a very literal one. A once powerful creature turned hostile, having to deal with the everlasting burn of radiation, forcing it to hunt those who it deems responsible for its pain. I think Sergei represented what remains of the Soviet people that lived here, a proud people whose life and dreams were shattered by disaster. Perhaps it was all a dream, or a hallucination. Perhaps that creature was an undiscovered mutant, or a Soviet experiment gone wrong. Perhaps Sergei was real. I'll leave these thoughts to you. Good night, Leshy.
I don't have evidence or anything to timestamp shit with, so you're going to have to take my word on this, because it was not something anyone should have to go through, and also connection is slow, so it will take long to post. Be out hunting in the woods of Ozarks during hunting season. Been doing this for quite some time, since it means I don't have to go buy meat for large sums of money when I can hunt and get large packs of meat for free. Deep in the woods because couldn't find any deer, so had to move deeper to get a higher chance of finding a deer. Noticed another hunter since he was wearing camouflage and has a hunting rifle, so didn't pay much mind but kept my distance because somehow something felt off about this guy. Made some distance before settling down and setting up my small spot to wait for any deer to come by. An hour goes by and hear something in the distance which first sounded like it was an animal, so I took my rifle up and waited for my target to come close by. Except it didn't, and the sound started to sound more like it was a person that was moving and not a deer. Something inside me told me to get the hell out of there, which I put it off as just paranoia until a shot rang out and hit the tree next to me. Fucking made me jump, and my first words was, "Watch where you aiming." You almost got another round hit close but barely hit me. Couldn't see where the shots were coming from but immediately knew that I had to get the hell out of here now. Ducked down and began to run as another shot went off and hit the dirt few inches next to me. If I knew where he was, I would have maybe had a chance to shoot at whoever is shooting at me, but didn't want to risk myself, because if I stopped moving then I would be an easy target, or he would creep up on me and just kill me from a clear line of shot. Began to run when I heard the footsteps began as well, so now the guy was chasing me as I tried to outrun this maniac. Trying to keep myself together at this moment, because this is terrifying as it is now that someone is trying to kill me for no reason. Managed to outrun him, but I ain't in the clear because I know that he hasn't given up on me, so I tried to make as little noise as I can while keeping my head down, moving through the woods. Begin to think back about the guy I spotted earlier ago, and began to piece the puzzles together in my head, and come to the conclusion that may be the same guy, but my thoughts were interrupted by the sound of leaves breaking. Luckily there was a huge rock with a fallen tree next by, so hid behind it and stay silent as the sounds came closer. The guy walked literally right past the area I'm hiding behind, but luckily he didn't look around the area, or I would have been dead for sure. And yeah, I had the rifle with me, but I never expected this to happen today like this, and also I didn't trust myself to be quick or be able to hit him, because this shit isn't like fucking video games. The guy's footsteps stopped moving, and I held my rifle close by, preparing myself to actually be forced to use it on another man to defend myself. The guy's footsteps began again, and it went away, but I stayed in my area for a long time until I felt comfortable enough to move a bit, but by this time the sun was beginning to set down, so I had to quickly get back to the dirt road where I parked my pickup truck while ago. Peeked my head around and surveyed the area to see if he was still there, which luckily he wasn't. Began to move again while keeping my head down and made slow movements because I didn't want to let my position out to that maniac. By the time I got to my truck the sun was now down and it was hard to see anything past the short distance, so as I got inside my truck and started the keys, that is when I saw the guy again, which had his gun aimed at me because a round went off and it hit the windshield. quickly hit the gas and got the hell out of there. Managed to get back to town, and first thing I did was went to the police station and told them what happened. Stayed and answered their questions before I had to go on home, since it was late at this point. Time went by and they never did caught the guy, nor even find any traces of him. Went and got my windshield replaced, and since then never went back out to the woods again. I don't care you believe me or not, but when you're going hunting, just make sure you know your surroundings, because there are real fucking crazy maniacs that will kill you during hunting seasons.
Here's one from me in the army, not so long ago now that I think of it. Was a young PFC at JRTC. Pretty poopy mood throughout the unit, because only the key leaders were actually deploying, but we all had to go. Fort Polk is the muddy unwiped butthole of America. A bunch of guys from other troops I didn't know were placed on my team. My team was assigned to be role players. All 34 of us are put into a modified Connex. Other teams get tents with electricity. The Connex leaks, and it rains frequently. The radios are kept in a Humvee outside. We all alternate between tower guard, radio watch, and downtime. 2,300, second week in the box. 2 of the privates from another troop come back from radio guard. Claim they saw a stark white figure sprint past the gate into the COP at super speed. They are visibly scared off their ass. My turn on radio guard, the next night. By myself, for 2 hours. Can't hear anything but the dull roar of the radio static. Just staring out the windshield at the gate, trying to stay awake. See the thing the other guys spoke of last night. It was about 7 feet tall, vaguely human-shaped, and just sprinted past the gate. It was too fast and it was too dark out to see much detail, but it looked muscular. Clutch the fuck out of my rifle as if my blanks would save me. Heart rate is accelerated the rest of the shift, which was about 35 minutes. Run my ass inside and wake up the next guard. Can't sleep. Convince my squad leader to come with me to look for tracks in the morning. It rained after my shift. I will never again return to the state of Louisiana.
Camping in a woods. Friend and I have brought rifles for shooting cans and general jackassery. Evening of the second day, blasting Jimmy Castor and drinking wild turkey. Friend says he sees something in the woods. Tell him it's probably a raccoon, chill out. He shrugs and goes back to cooking dinner. A little while later he sees it again. Says it's way too big to be a coon. Bears are pretty common around here, so I figure it's one of the brown bears looking for leftovers. Make sure my circuit judge is loaded but don't freak. Friend is puzzled but chills out. Much later. Fire is burning low. Hear a guttural growl in the woods. We grab our rifles and scan the trees. Friend says he sees the thing again. Tall shadow, must be 7 or 8 feet tall. Then we see eyes. Way off the ground, white, reflective, staring. We yell and throw shit to scare it off. Still think it's a bear. Thing lets out a blood-freezing howl. That's no bear. Hear it crashing through the woods towards us. Friend and I open fire. We discharge 8 or 10 rounds before the thing reaches the edge of the site. Most of the bullets hit, but it just makes the thing angry. Roars again and the fire goes completely out with a hiss. Friend and I are running down the trail now. We empty our rifles at the thing, but it doesn't give a shit. We approach the parking lot, where there are lights and other people. As we get closer, the thing stops, hauls again, then lumbers off into the forest. Everyone in the lot hears it. Some friendly rednecks let us stay in their camper for the night. Go back to our site in the morning. Everything is trashed. Pack up whatever we can salvage. Probably break some kind of speed record going back down the trail. Tell the Native American ranger that there's a dangerous animal in the woods. Describe our encounter. Ranger tells us not to worry about it, then yells at us for disturbing the wildlife and shooting at animals. Banned from park. As if we'd go back without a fucking tank.
West Virginia, circa early 90s. Grandpa is on a trip. Grandma is home with the dog. Dog is an annoying fuck that hated everybody. Seriously, dog was the SRS of the canine world. Quiet night, new moon, middle of the valley. Grandma hears a loud whistle off in the distance. Able to hear it over the TV, dog starts yapping. Grandma goes on the front porch. It's got a gate for the front door and a gate on the railing. Dog yaps a few times. Grandma hears the whistle a second time. The pitch goes up and down at random. It sounds somewhat closer, but she can't really tell. She goes back inside and locks everything up. Dog is still on the porch, barks a few more times. 2 hours pass. Whistle returns. It's much closer. There's a second whistle on the other side of the house. Grandma sees a light out in the darkness. A few miles away. It flickers with the whistle. Dog is going barklistic. Hairs on Grandma's neck stand up. Grandma gets a bad feeling in her gut. TV is now off. Grandma grabs Grandpa's trench shoddy. Grandma doesn't go in the woods, you fucking neckbeards. Grandma barricades the doors. Whistles return. She runs for the attic. Climbs up and barricades that shit. She falls asleep with shotgun in her hands. From what my grandmother told me, there wasn't a single fucking bird singing the next morning. It was also possibly the foggiest morning WV had ever seen. Her story ends on a particularly nasty note. She took a look out one of the front windows and saw one of the rocking chairs on the porch had been shattered. The dog wasn't there, just a blood stain and a whole lot of gouges in the wood.
I had something happen to me back before I owned firearms. Usually I don't like bringing this up because it was one of the times I was seriously afraid of dying. It wasn't deep ocean, it was a local lake here in Oklahoma. I haven't been back to it since. I really don't like dark water or water I can't see through now. I also don't fish anymore. 11. Summer vacation with Mom, my little sister, and the new stepdad before I found out he was a worthless drunk boss. Camping at Lake 10-Killer. Stepdad owns a little boat, little 16-footer, about 7 foot wide, single 12 horsepower motor big enough for fishing and trolling around the lake, even has pedals. Staying at Cooks and Bend public campgrounds. We get up one morning, have breakfast, decide to go around the lake on the boat. All of us pile in, and have some fun out for a few hours. Stop at the island next to Strahan Landing to do some fishing, and refuel. Stepdad overfills tank, some gas spills over motor. No big deal, right? No, wrong. Start the motor. Motor catches fire. Turn boat upside down to put out motor. Motor is fabric, coils are fucked, won't restart without them. Fuck me. Hard. Miles from campsite, on an island, no emergency flares, but we got pedals. Start paddling back towards campsite, middle of the day, in Oklahoma summer. Literally takes hours. Towards sunset, we get near the shoreline, and I jump out to pull the boat along rather than row one more goddamn second. I ended up getting second-degree sunburn from this, still have the scars on my shoulders. Just past sundown, in the water, pulling boat. Loving the cool because it's been fucking hot all day. Maybe a mile from campsite. I'm in water up to my neck, because it felt good on the sunburn. Everyone else is quiet in the boat, fucking napping. Hear a splash off to my left, out toward deeper water, really don't pay attention, trying to fucking get back to camp so I can die in peace in my sleeping bag. Walking along, something clamps down on my ankle shin and jerks me hard out toward deeper water. I go underwater, but manage to hold on to the rope that I'm pulling the boat with. Swallow water when I scream, coughing and choking, but kicking the ever-living fuck at whatever has me. Get clawed for my troubles, start kicking even harder. Finally it lets go, and I shooting out of the water like a fucking ick. Pull my ass into the boat, coughing, crying, half screaming. Blood fucking everywhere. No chunks bitten out, but clawed to the shin bone and bite marks that cut and crack bone. Stepdad took over and got us back to the campsite. I ended up going to the ER where they butterflied me up and wrapped it. They gave me a removable leg brace since I had to keep the wound clean as well. Doc said they would have cast it instead. Ended up with a leg brace the rest of the summer. The best the lake rangers could guess was a huge alligator snapping turtle got me. They estimated 4-5 feet, probably 200-250 pounds or so. It's why I don't go into lakes anymore, and don't like water I can't see in. I was probably only underwater 10-15 seconds, but it felt like forever.
Unlike Ozarks Anon, I have a real story that could possibly count as manhunting if you are dumb. It was scary nonetheless. Be 17-year-old me hunting at the Manistee National Forest with brother and dad. Permission from old guy my dad knew from work. He warns us neighbor is an asshole with 40 acres. Cocky and buck fever, so end up walking far from senpai and end up on private property, and in head thought that neighbor wouldn't notice. Put my tree climber up, sit down at 4:30ish. After about 5 minutes here walking. It's the neighbor pretty sure, but steps are behind me. He gets like 10 feet away from tree behind me and shoots gun in air, I assume, starts screaming at me. I rope my gun down and start crying, trying to get down from tree. Apologize multiple times while freaking out. Old guy continues yelling at me, says I knew you fuckers were on my land, asks me whose kid I am. I just keep freaking out, grab my shit and power walk away. Old guy says I'm a real shit. Feels good to look back on that story, shows that dumbass kids need to listen.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.